My husband brought his mistress to my niece's wedding, so I ruined him and never went home. For 14 years, I was the woman who forgave everything. My husband, Juan, was a man who couldn't let a single skirt pass him by without chasing it. He was a serial cheater, a man who treated our marriage vows like a minor inconvenience. At one point, he even slept with my only close friend, Lily. In my warped, broken state of mind back then, I actually forgave him for that, though I cut Lily out of my life forever. I stayed because I was thoroughly conditioned to accept misery. Since I was a little girl, my mother had pounded the same cynical script into my head, constantly reminding me that all men are exactly the same, that they are all natural-born cheaters, and that a woman's job is simply to endure it for the sake of the family. So, I endured. I swallowed the humiliation, cleaned his clothes, cooked his meals, and pretended the perfume on his collars belonged to me. But the illusions completely shattered on the day of my niece Rosalie's wedding. It was supposed to be a beautiful celebration, a joyful day for our family. I had arrived early to help Rosalie with her veil, sitting in the church pews waiting for my husband to show up. When the heavy doors finally opened, Juan didn't walk in alone. He strutted into the venue with his 24-year-old mistress, Aurora, clinging tightly to his arm. She was wearing a loud, revealing dress, completely inappropriate for a family wedding, and Juan looked proud, as if he had just won a trophy. The entire room went completely dead silent. I stood there, freezing in place, as a wave of absolute horror washed over me. I didn't see anger in the eyes of my relatives, I saw something much worse. I saw pity. Every single guest turned to look at me with these pathetic, sorrowful expressions. I could hear the suffocating whispers rippling through the crowd. "Oh my God, look at her. Poor Maria. The poor thing. Her husband is openly flaunting his mistress at a family wedding right in front of everyone." That pity was a knife to my soul. In that exact moment, the naive, forgiving woman my mother had raised died on the spot. My heart instantly turned to solid stone. I didn't feel heartbreak anymore, I didn't feel love for the man I had spent over a decade protecting. All I felt was an overwhelming, suffocating sense of disgust, pure hatred, and an insatiable desire for total vengeance. I didn't make a scene at the wedding. I didn't give Juan the satisfaction of a public meltdown. Instead, I quietly picked up my purse, walked out of the venue while the ceremony was still going on, and walked straight into a dimly lit lounge bar 3 blocks away. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, but from the raw adrenaline of a woman who had finally awoken from a 14-year coma. I ordered a stiff drink, and that's when Lucas walked into my life. He was sitting 2 stools down, a handsome, sharp-eyed man who noticed the quiet fury radiating off me. He bought me a drink, asked me my name, and for the first time in 14 years, I listened to a man who actually looked at me like I was the only woman in the room. We talked for hours. I told him everything, pouring out the toxicity of my marriage, and Lucas just listened, his jaw clenched in anger on my behalf. That night, I didn't go back to the house I shared with Juan. For the first time in our entire marriage, I vanished. I spent the night in Lucas's apartment, shedding the skin of the pathetic, cheated-on wife, and stepping into the role of the architect of Juan's destruction. When I finally turned my phone back on the next morning, it was flooded with 40 missed calls and dozens of angry, panicked text messages from Juan. He wasn't worried about my safety, he was furious that my sudden disappearance had made him look bad in front of the family after he brought Aurora. His texts read, "Maria, where the hell are you? You embarrassed me by walking out of Rosalie's wedding. Everyone is asking questions. Get your ass home right now." I smiled a cold, dangerous smile. I didn't reply. Instead, I went straight to a cyber cafe, logged into our joint bank accounts, and began the process of absolute financial liquidation. Juan had always been careless, trusting that his quiet, submissive wife would never question his finances. He didn't realize that over the years, I had quietly kept track of every single asset, every property deed, and every hidden account he used to fund his lavish lifestyle and buy gifts for his various mistresses. The house we lived in had been partially funded by my own family's dowry, and my name was firmly on the title. I immediately contacted a ruthless divorce attorney, handed over a flash drive filled with years of meticulously documented evidence of his infidelity, including the old messages from his affair with Lily and recent bank statements showing he used our marital funds to buy Aurora a brand new car, and instructed my lawyer to take him for absolutely everything he was worth. The climax of my revenge came 3 days later when I finally returned to the house to gather the rest of my personal belongings. Juan was sitting in the living room, looking smug, completely expecting me to fall to my knees, beg for his forgiveness, and accept his usual lies. Aurora was actually sitting on my kitchen counter, drinking out of my favorite mug, as if she already owned the place. Juan sneered at me as I walked in, saying, "Well, look who finally decided to show up. You've got a lot of explaining to do, Maria. Who were you with? Because of your little stunt, your family is refusing to talk to me." I didn't even look at Aurora. I walked right up to Juan, pulled the freshly printed divorce papers out of my bag, and dropped them onto his lap. Along with the divorce papers was a legally binding eviction notice for Aurora, giving her exactly 24 hours to remove her presence from my property. Juan laughed, throwing his head back. "Divorce? Are you insane, Maria? You won't leave me. You have nowhere to go, and you don't have the guts. Your mother was right, men cheat, get over it." I leaned down, staring directly into his arrogant eyes, my voice dripping with absolute venom. "My mother was a victim, Juan. I am not. I already emptied the secondary accounts. I froze the business assets pending a forensic audit for tax fraud regarding the money you laundered to buy your little girlfriend's car. And by the way, this house is being put on the market tomorrow. You have 30 days to find a place to live, assuming you aren't bankrupt by then. Have fun living with your prize." Aurora gasped, dropping her mug, which shattered loudly on the tiled floor. Juan's face went completely pale, his eyes widening in pure terror as he realized the submissive woman he had trampled on for 14 years was gone forever. He tried to grab my arm, suddenly begging, stammering out apologies, but I shoved him away with a strength I didn't know I possessed, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out the door without looking back once. 1 year has passed since that fateful day at the wedding, and my life is completely unrecognizable in the best way possible. The divorce was a bloodbath for Juan. Because of the overwhelming evidence of financial dissipation on his mistresses, the judge ruled heavily in my favor. I received 70% of the assets, the full proceeds from the sale of the house, and a massive alimony settlement that practically bleeds him dry every single month. Juan's glamorous life completely collapsed. Without my money to support her, Aurora left him within 2 months, moving on to an older, wealthier man and leaving Juan completely broke and brokenhearted. He now lives in a tiny, depressing 1-bedroom apartment, working extra hours just to keep up with his legal debts and alimony payments. He regularly tries to call me from unknown numbers, crying, begging for a second chance, telling me he realizes now that I was the best thing that ever happened to him. I just hang up and block the number. As for me, I am finally living for myself. Lucas and I are still together, and our relationship is built on a foundation of genuine respect, passion, and loyalty that I never knew existed during my 14 years of martial captivity. I no longer carry the heavy, suffocating crown of the forgiving wife. I am strong, I am wealthy, I am loved, and most importantly, I am completely free. I broke the cycle my mother tried to trap me in, and I showed my husband exactly what happens when you push a good woman too far.